It being the evening of May 11th and a quorum being present, I'll call the meeting of the Conservation Commission to order pursuant to Governor Baker's signing of Senate Bill 2475, an act relating to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will meet utilizing the Zoom online option. Instructions and invitations are available at the town website at www.bellinghamma.org. Moving forward in this meeting, the chair instructs the meeting administrator to withhold access to speak at the meeting until or unless such persons requesting to speak are visible on screen and respectfully request such access. That's been handy.
I'd like to get a printout of what you just read to employ at our Conservation Commission hearings.
Oh.
Well, we'll certainly do that.
That'd be great.
Well, at least
Do we get a discount for a future review?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, we'll do that. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuation of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, on the notice of intent for the proposed construction of a 124,200 square foot industrial building with associated parking, access, landscaping, utilities, and stormwater management system located at Assessors Map 52, Lot 3, 206 Mechanic Street, Bellingham. John Kuchik, Boulder Engineering, Southborough, Mass., has submitted a filing on behalf of Wayne Finnegan, Howland Development, Wilmington, Mass. The continuations will be held via the online Zoom option on Wednesday, May 11th at 7.
So good evening, everybody. For the record, John Cusick with Bowler Engineering, and I have Wayne Finnegan here on the line as well with Howland Development. Nice to see you all again. It's been actually quite some time. I think the last time we were before you was late January, I think the 26th to be exact. At which point we gave a full presentation on the project. We went through the plans, limit of work, drainage, erosion controls, really the whole thing. And this was a unique project, as you may recall, in that the really the wetlands are off site and buffers are really outside of the work. However, based on this parcel being part of a development that happened years and years ago for the abutting property, it was conditioned that we come before you to present the project and make sure everything is on the up and up. So which is what we've done. So since at the last hearing, and I don't want to paraphrase for anybody, at the last hearing, we went through the project, and I think everything was generally well received. The commission, however, did want us to hold off on anything further until we made sure that peer review comments were addressed. Wanted to make sure that the planning process had played through, so there wouldn't be any changes and we wouldn't be coming back to you after all the work that you do to then say, thanks, but here's a change. So we have done that, and I think we're really at that point. We've had, I want to say, three or four hearings with the planning board since our initial meeting. We've had a site walk and very good progress, and it's gone really, really well. Since that time, and we're hopeful at the meeting tomorrow night to essentially start reviewing, conditions of the project. We're not expecting any plan changes. Through the process, we've worked on a lot of things with the planning board, mainly, architectural comments, traffic circulation comments, traffic mitigation comments. There's a wall in the front of the site that they were very interested in. It's somewhat of a gateway as you enter the town, in landscaping. There really have not been any changes to the perimeter of the property, the drainage, erosion controls. Those have all remained pretty much as you've seen them, and nothing has really changed. We had received a comment letter from BSC. Again, the first time around, it was a pretty clean letter. There was very, very minimal comments on there, but we kind of held off until we got everything back to make one complete compiled set to both the commission and the planning board. So at this time, I believe we've addressed all of those comments. They had a couple of comments relative to clarifying some of the wetland flags up in one corner, which we had done. There were comments relative to providing some backup information from a pipe manufacturer relative to the cover of pipe. And then just some additional detailing they wanted to make sure that was shown on the plan. Very basic types of comments. I'd be happy to go in with more detail if you like. And the one comment that the commission did ask at the last hearing that we've incorporated the plans is you wanted to see the snow storage locations. So that is on the plans. And if I can share my screen, I'll point that out because we have added that since we met with you last and you had asked us to add that in.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see. Is my screen showing?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent. So again, this was the plan. Nothing's really changed, but we've clouded out the areas where we're designating snow storage located in these areas. Hopefully you can see it on the screen. I realize the line type is very light along here. So we essentially have it on all sides of the building. Nothing proposed over the perimeter anywhere, contained in the parking field over here, or the storage area over here, the trailer storage, and within landscape areas internal to the site. So that was something specifically that the commission asked us to add and has been incorporated. Another thing that we added based on I think it was a recent comment from the planning board. Again, in our O&M plan, we specified that the tenant would be responsible for really yard cleanup. I think there's some concerns in really maybe some other businesses in town where property owners may not be cleaning up waste, whether it's generated by them or not. You know, sometimes in some of these areas, I think there's been an issue with people throwing things off the side of the road into the property. We've added a line in our O&M plan, and I think Ann's familiar with this, that we would be responsible for cleaning that up, and the yard would be maintained and monitored and maintained. So that has been included resubmitted to you, just so you have that in your records. So what you have now is a fully compiled site plan set that is exactly what the planning board has, and I believe it addresses all of the comments of the board, the peer reviewer, and I think that was the comment that we heard from the commission last time that we wanted to be sure to add on the plan. So with that, I realize it's been a while. I'd be happy to go into more detail or answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to reiterate that this is a very unusual circumstance because the project doesn't really impact the buffer zone at all. And that this is a situation where a previous development constructed a stormwater management system, and the commission required them to size it in anticipation of future development on the corner, so that we wouldn't be in a situation where the future development on the corner, which is happening now, would have no place for stormwater management. And to be perfectly honest, it's something we've never done before. Bowler's embraced this strategy and has exerted the effort to make sure that everything that they're doing is in compliance, even though the only jurisdiction that was exerted on the project happens to be a previous development. So we appreciate that. The latest peer review comments have been distributed to the commission. The administrators reviewed them. I've reviewed them. I don't have any further questions. Are there questions from the members?
I have one.
Sure.
So based on the areas of the snow storage, since I was one of the members that brought that up, what level of snow, I know you guys engineers could figure this out if you haven't already, have you calculated for it to be handled by those 5 areas or 4 areas that are designated? In other words, 2 inches of snow, 4 inches of snow, 4 or 5 inch storms, sorry.
So it's a good question. And to be honest, if it was a tighter site, I probably would have gone through and done that calculation. But we haven't done so, and it becomes a bit of a varied calculation because it depends on really the density of the snow if I want to get all engineering. But we identified areas that make sense. And for instance, if we had a larger storm event for whatever reason, there's more areas on site that I haven't identified. So for instance, the way these things operate sometimes, that this entire area could be used as snow storage. And
Isn't that where the trailers park?
well, yeah, what I was going to say was how these can also function is you could actually use every other bay for loading and one bay for trailer storage. So we have a very long area here, and it's highly unlikely that there would be, or not highly unlikely, it just wouldn't be used for loading all at once. So there's extra
How
capacity.
many loading docks or loading bays do you actually have there? It doesn't show it on the plan that I can see.
Yeah, you know what? It's labeled here, but you can't see it. Let me see if I can zoom up and we can see it. It's under a hatch.
There you go.
47.
47, okay. And so the spare trailer storage across the way that you have for storage, it looks like about
25.
25. So about half of those are designated for storage. And the area on the corner, how wide a road turn is that all the trucks have to enter into? I'm sorry, exit from.
Are you
Top there,
referring?
yeah, right there, that to your left slightly.
Yep.
Yeah, right where the pile is right on a curve. And I was just wondering how wide that is, and piling snow on a curve where vehicles, especially large ones, are trying to maneuver.
Trucks aren't going there. I don't think trucks are going there, Mike. I think that's access to the employee parking area.
I thought that in listening to the planning board meetings, all the trucks were going to leave via Maple Street and only enter.
Oh, okay. Yep. I see the exit now. Yep.
Yeah, so this was, I think this is what the chairman is referring to. So this is the employee area that all employees will come in here. The trucks are in the back area, and the board, just to step back a little bit, the board for the most part wanted the trucks to come in this way and exit this way. To answer your specific question, this is a 30-foot wide roadway in that area.
Uh-huh.
And that snow storage area is outside of the curb, so they wouldn't be driving over the lawn anyway.
Right. No, I understand that. I just trying to get it. I couldn't tell how wide that was from the plans that I was saying. At 30 feet is wide enough for, is it 2 lanes for a reason there, not just one to exit?
It's 2 lanes in case emergency vehicle needs to come in here.
Okay.
We talked with the planning board on the off chance a truck goes the wrong way. We don't want them to have to go down Maple Street to turn around. We wanted to allow them to come in that way. But the majority of the traffic, I'd say 99% of it is going to be, exiting in this manner here.
Okay. And on the back side of the parking storage, trailer storage area to the left there, I know it drops off, and then there's the detention basin shown in the dark gray. Is that right? Or the riprap?
That's correct. So this is the existing basin back down here.
Before you get to the basin, from right where your cursor is right there, from the fence down to that riprap area, I can't remember. We talked about it at one meeting, but it was a while ago. Refresh my memory, if you would, about how much of a drop is that? Distance, length, and height drop?
I don't recall, but we can call it up on a plan and I can show you.
If you go to the drainage plan, it's.
Yeah,
I understand it's outside of the resource area, but it does go in that direction. If I remember, it's fairly steep. If we tell you, there you go.
Yep. So I think we talked about this at the last hearing, I recall. So we drop off. We've got a 3-to-1 slope over here.
So 250, 255, 260, 256. I can't tell what the top line is of where the guardrail is. I see a 254, but I think it's a little higher than that for the at the edge of the parking lot.
So if the question's what the proposed parking lot in this area is just under 255.
Okay, so 255 to 244, so it's about 11-foot drop over. What's distance out from the fence to the, I'm just trying to picture this, visualize. I know you said this slope, but ratio in that general area, but the distance from where it says prop DBC 103 a little further down, Fremont's right there, from that back edge of guardrail down to the grade area. It's
I don't-
11-foot drop there. How far out is it from the parking lot to that stone riprap area?
So you're saying how far is this right
Yeah,
in
what's
here?
that distance? Yeah, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably about, if it's an 11-foot drop, it's a 3-to-1 slope, so it'd be 33 feet.
Okay, all right, thanks. And so my question is, one of the things that we mentioned at the earlier meeting, talking about snow storage. The snow that's piled there is not pure, easily meltable, not easily, clean snow to when and if it melts off eventually, as it will, it's going to flow down that slope into that area and then eventually make its way towards the resource area. Whether it gets all the way there or not, not hard to say. But you're just basically planning on piling it up against the guardrail. Is it just a metal guardrail and that's it? There's no fencing?
There is no, so this fencing from
Along the
this-
top of the parking lot, right by the guardrail.
there's fencing along here.
And what
there's
kind of
just-
fencing?
So there is a vinyl fence located here, 6-foot vinyl fence.
Is that a solid vinyl, or are you talking about the woven vinyl through a chain link kind of vinyl when you say vinyl?
No, this here is a solid vinyl fence
Okay,
here. And then there's a chain link fence located over here. And that's really for fall protection.
right.
You have a wall.
Okay. So then on the back side where the snow storage was, you're getting down to that now. Is that also the vinyl all the way down the length of that trailer storage area? Does it stop at some point in time? I can't see the
Yeah,
details.
no, we don't have a fence proposed in this area here.
Okay, so it's basically then just the guardrail on the back side there where the snow's piling up against.
That's correct.
Okay, and is there signage going to be there for designating that you don't, operators of the snow plows and so forth are not to push over or
Yes.
dump over?
Yep.
Those are, where are they posted? Because on the guardrail is going to be half the time covered with snow. That's not going to be effective.
Well, again, we're not proposing to cover the guardrail with snow. It was based on, really, I think it was probably your comment going back from January. You didn't want snow piled over there, and you
Right.
yeah, no, exactly. That's what you don't do. You specifically asked to show the snow storage, which is the reason why we're showing the the storage out in the front area here. Again, we've got enough pavement where we're able to do that. So we didn't want to plow it over into the basin. So this way the snow can be stored here. Traffic operations can still continue. And as the snow melts, it would hit the proposed drainage system.
So everything is pitched back towards the building, correct? From the edge of the guardrail towards the building?
Or to the basins that are in the pavement. So there's a full curb here. So nothing
Right.
would slope off. It would stay within the parking area.
Well, when you say nothing will fall off, I'm a little skeptical because it's what, a 4-inch curb,
It'd be a 6-inch curb.
6-inch curb, and then guardrail is about how high?
A guardrail is about 30 inches.
30 inches, okay.
Mhm.
Depending on how much snow there is, I have seen areas plowed around town where they can't see the guardrail and there's some sort of curb there too, but
So to
So I'm
get
not
to
confident.
get to a point where I think you're going, and just want to cut to the chase, would you be happier if we added a section of fence here? Is that what you're looking?
just for the commission's reference, I'm thinking of behind Market Basket parking lot, Walmart area, as an area more recently that we've had issues with snow being removed from a large parking area where vehicles are moving back and forth behind their loading and unloading, tractor trailers and so forth. I know it's not the same as a warehouse exactly, but similar conditions, and a chain link fence didn't do a whole lot of good. It didn't have the same layout as exactly here for drop off and all that. But I have an issue with it being just a 30-inch guardrail. The curb, if it's piled higher than 6 or 8 inches, is going to be up against that with the snowpack. Some will melt and flow down and some won't. Some will be contaminated and some won't. But with signage only on a 30-inch guardrail, I don't think that's adequate. I would propose that we would have every, I don't know, however long that length is there, every 10 feet or so, a sign that's 4 or 5 feet above the pavement that clearly indicates no dumping, no plowing beyond this point, or something like that. Whatever we've done elsewhere or recommended developers do elsewhere. I don't think we can do
No,
much.
Mike, didn't he just say there's signage?
Only on the guardrail. My point is, I don't believe that a 30-inch high sign is adequate. I think it could easily be plowed over with 5-6 inches of snow. You're piling it up in that area.
But didn't he say their intention is not to plow toward the guardrail?
Well, they're showing that the snow field area right up to it, isn't it? That
So
wiggly line.
this is a 60-foot, this striped out area,
Yeah.
it's 60 feet from here to here. It's a pretty substantial area. So it's not like it's just a parking stall width. Again, this is a truck area. So there's 60 feet of snow area.
But they're not going to stop 3 feet clear of the guardrail on the left side where you just ran your mouse down, right? I mean, that part of the area. I'm just saying it's going to be pushed in. The inclination is to push until you meet some resistance, and I just have less confidence. But I don't want to hold it up. I mean, if you're going to put in what you're going to put in, my recommendation is that we do a little bit more aggressive signage, or assertive signage, not aggressive, but something that if it was a chain link fence there, we would be putting the signs on the chain link fence. I'm not saying you have to put chain link, but I think at the very least, some signage that's well above any potential snow plowing, which I think 30 inches is borderline for a heavy snow. I understand it's not going to be all up the upper end. I'm understanding you're pushing it down at the lower end, but that also drops off and would flow if it's pushed too much into the resource area eventually. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I could make a suggestion, we can add a standard, traffic sign, call it every third bay. So, they stand out quite visibly.
Very obvious. It would be very obvious.
Along the back length, and would be amenable to adding those signs as a condition. We'd be happy to do that and work with the commission if that's a concern.
mine. I don't know if it's anybody else's, but that was mine. One other question, and during the planning board meeting, I heard this for the first time, and I think in your initial presentation back in January, you talked about the overall site layout and the grading and so forth, with some addressing at that time to the fact you're not grading over into the detention area and the resource area and so forth. But in the planning board meeting, when somebody asked this question, it was stated that the property entrance on 140 there, where the trucks are entering, would drop down, I think they said almost 10 feet. So you'd only see at the top 4 or 5 feet, 6 feet, depending on how tall the trailers are, of trailer. You wouldn't see the whole trailers behind the building, because they're talking about the fencing and the landscaping behind there as you leave Bellingham on 140. The planning board and other people were talking about that. So my question was, I thought the site was going to be pretty much at grade where you would enter in from Mechanic Street, but is it really going to drop down that far?
It's on the plans, Mike.
Okay, well, I just didn't hear it during the Concom meeting per se. I thought I was hearing wasn't much grading. All right, that's all I have for questions. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, in fact, I think we touched on the grading at our last meeting. And, you know, Frank was able to, confirm that that's what's proposed. And of course, by lowering the site, it makes that 3-to-1 slope toward the basin more manageable. So, all right. Are there any other questions from the commission? Are there any questions from the public? Okay, so John, what I'm going to ask you to do is to just revise that particular sheet and talk about placing the signage and maybe add it to the details.
We can do that.
Okay. Now you're meeting with the planning board tomorrow night, and I know you expect everything to go smoothly. So looking ahead to a continuation, as things are shaping up, it looks like our next available time slot won't be until we have a special town meeting coming up that we're obligated to attend. So it looks like June 18th, but what we'll do, June 8th.
June, May 18th. This is June 8th.
May 18th.
May 18th.
May 18th.
So
I'm
that's
sorry.
next week,
We have a special
Next
meeting
week.
scheduled for May 18th.
May 18th.
Sorry, my mistake.
That's cool.
And what we'll do is we'll continue to May 18th. And hopefully there'll be no changes as a result of the planning board meeting. If you can get those revisions to the administrator, we will develop the order of conditions and be prepared to close an issue.
That would be great. Yep,
Okay.
we can do that.
Okay, that being the case, I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of May 18th at 7:30.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? We will do a roll call vote. Noel. Didn't hear you.
Aye.
Okay, Ariane,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Neil,
Aye.
and Brian.
Aye.
Did I talk about Ariane?
Yes.
I did, okay.
Aye.
Okay, that's by unanimous vote. So, well, thank you very much. We'll look forward to getting that. And the administrator and I will spend some time this weekend developing that permit.
That would be great. We really appreciate your time and your comments, and thank you very much. And Ann, I'm trying to close out of my my screen here, and I seem to be locked out, so you may need to manually override me.
I gotcha.
No.
Thank you, Noel.
If you would. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. everybody.
Thanks, Noel.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Mm-mm.
All right.
Do we have time before the next hearing?
What was the question?
I didn't get that, Ariane.
Oh, sorry. Do we have a couple minutes before the next hearing?
Well, actually, we don't, but we'll have a couple minutes after because they're requesting a continuation.
Oh, sweet.
Is that okay?
I can wait.
All right. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, on the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for the confirmation of 944 linear feet of delineated bordering vegetated wetlands located at Assessors Map 20, Lot 12, 79 Maple Street, Bellingham. Ryan Rosine, Goddard Consulting, Northborough, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Anne Marie Hill, 79 Maple Street, Bellingham. The continuations will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, May 11th at 7:30. Okay, so if everyone will recall, the commission did not agree with the wetland delineation as presented for the ANRAD. And in the field, we had some lengthy discussions, and by mutual agreement, the commission agreed to entertain and engage the services of a professional wetland scientist to redelineate the wetlands. That was done, the plan was submitted, the commission went out in the field, and there were still some continued disagreements. And what was determined in the field was that although the area shown as being entirely BVW had some small upland areas, they were surrounded by regulated resource areas, and that the commission agreed with the peer reviewers' determination that the entire back portion of the property was indeed a BVW. We are still awaiting the applicant's plans um, demonstrating that that's the case. He has requested a continuation. So we have two situations that are present. The original delineator felt that her wetland delineation was accurate and that the subsequent delineation addressed the performance standards for the bylaw only. And that's where some of the disagreement continued in the field. But it was, the determination of the commission that irrespective of the two different areas of jurisdiction, that the whole area and the back portion of the property was subject to both of the performance standards. So, okay. Are there any questions from the commission? Are there any questions from the public?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. How are you? Thank you for continuing to participate in this lengthy proceeding.
Is there going to be? Excuse me. Sorry.
Okay.
Is there going to be a continuation of this?
There is.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So I'll stay tuned.
Yeah, we're going to get that. We're going to get to that right now.
Oh, okay. Awesome. All right. Thank you.
If there are no further questions or comments, okay, I'll entertain a motion to continue this to the evening of Wednesday, June 8th at 8:30. That will give the applicant adequate time to provide the required information.
So moved.
Neil,
Second.
Mike, discussion, all in favor? Ariane?
Aye.
Oh, okay. Actually, there are few enough people. Let's do that again. All in favor?
Aye.
I heard everyone's voice. Opposed? Okay, that's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So Ariane, you had a question or an issue you wanted to raise?
Yeah, I was just wondering about this issue that has been coming up in the past couple of meetings regarding snow storage. And my interpretation of the Wetlands Protection Act is that snow runoff counts as stormwater runoff. So therefore it should be managed the same way that regular stormwater is managed on site, or like stormwater from rain. So shouldn't they be coming up with that stuff first instead of us kind of bringing it up in the meeting? And
Well, so the way we always condition the permits is that no snow storage can be placed into stormwater management structures. It cannot be placed into regulated resource areas, but it has to be placed on impervious material, impervious surfaces on the property, or in areas where the snow melt can be treated as part of the stormwater management system. That's what we usually do.
it sounds good to me. I feel like they should be coming to us with a plan of where they're going to do it though, and they never do.
Well, no, we don't normally follow up on snow storage issues. I mean, the commission's free to do that. However, we put it in the conditions. We have, when we attend inspections for certificate of compliance requests, we see the signage, we see the snow storage areas are present without actually going out there during storm events and talking to the contractors. I don't feel that there's much more we can do. And personally, I have no interest in following up on that. But if a commissioner,
what I meant. Or like not following up on it, but like when they submit their application to us, or they're like, okay, we're ready for the order of conditions, and then this issue comes up, and I feel like they should already have that. They should be providing that to us on the plan, and like, should we even give them a hearing if they haven't?
Well, some people actually have done it. Some applicants have actually done that. Others, we found it insufficient, and others still do not designate the areas. So, we always address it. It's
It's
part
just been
of,
like multiple ones recently that haven't done it.
well, it's not in our plan set requirements under the local bylaw. So that's part of our job. We review the application, and if there's deficiencies, then we direct the applicant to make the corrections to address the issues. Do you think that we're not doing a good enough job addressing that issue, or?
No, I think like we could maybe save some time on both of our ends if we like told them from the get-go or had something in our like planning guidance that did include it, because it does seem like it's a state requirement, so they should be doing that anyway, but it seems like at least recently several haven't, which is why it has come up to the point where I've noticed it as a pattern.
Yeah, it's true. You're absolutely right. That several haven't come up with it recently. It's interesting though, because DEP hasn't commented on that either. I think so. What happens is that's why we have these hearings, so that we can pick out the deficiencies in the project and try to make the project better. If you can come up with an idea to expedite this, or to pay attention to, draw attention to it on the applicant's part, we'll certainly be very interested.
Could you put it on the permit application? Could you just make a line item on the permit application page?
It's possible. Let me check that out.
Yeah, okay. So
Something
maybe
that
what we
doesn't
can,
require a vote.
so this is just a policy change. We have the application for permit under the local bylaw.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone should have familiarized themselves with this by now. It's something we've been doing for 10 years. So the administrator checks that to make sure that all these things are addressed. Perhaps we could put a line item in there, an addendum saying, a commercial or industrial site shall provide snow storage areas on the plan. How's that?
Sure.
Yeah, that's good.
And especially with, potentially fewer storms, but greater intensity storms.
Yep.
Yeah.
Trying to pile up, one 12-inch storm is a much different process than trying to pile up 6 2-inch storms.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing.
That may become more of an issue going forward.
Yeah, that's
And we always put in our permits that in the event that snow storage capacity is exceeded, snow must be removed from the site and properly disposed of. And that's another thing. Who knows where it goes?
I feel like this could require like an amendment. So it's just a suggestion or like an idea, but like if, for however much impervious area they're gonna cover, it'd be like that times 12 is how many inches or how many cubic inches we need to provide. And like give them a height limit if we wanted. Or it's what Mike could use to evaluate, in his opinion, whether the snow storage meets his criteria, such as with the fencing.
I think that what we need to do is to get the applicants to understand moving forward that they're going to have to address the issue. And, once we make it a requirement of the plan set, then we can direct them based on the individual application.
How about something like, if you want your plan review forward to go, then be sure to include where snow storage will go.
Well, if you make it part of the original application protocol, then it's there.
It's a box you check off.
It's a
to
box you check off.
Say, yes, I've included this.
Yeah, all right.
Right. Yeah, can you check into that?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So yeah, we'll check into making that change.
Hopefully it will speed up that issue.
And Ariane, if you have any particular wording you wanted to suggest, we're always open to your ideas.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, maybe we could add it to an existing one, just like a couple words. I'll have to look at it and see where it would fit. It's like we have the associated stormwater management forms. So maybe just under there or something.
Yeah, so, send me something.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. We've received a request for an amendment to the order of conditions for what was Bellingham Shores. As it turns out, during our original review of the project, we based our permit on information that was provided by the applicant's engineer and their survey company. As it turns out, it appears that the grades were not necessarily accurate, and it's necessitated some changes to that project. Because if everyone will recall, this is our primary concern was the large basin that was at the north of the property. And we did a lot of work to assure that all of the standards were met, and actually we were concerned about the height of the berm. We developed a strategy where we'd put impervious material, compacted clay in the center of the berm to help stabilize in the event of a lot of water storage. And so because of these changes, we wanted the opportunity to send it out for peer review to make sure that we were okay, and B, have a new plan of records so that when an application was filed for a certificate of compliance, we would have an accurate plan of records. Now, that hearing will be held at our special meeting next week. Everyone agreed that they could make that meeting, so we scheduled this. But prior to that meeting, we've asked the applicant's representative, and I see that he's here and present tonight, to make a preliminary presentation so that we can provide a little bit of input. And if there's something that he can, a task he can perform prior to that meeting, then, he can get that work done and we can move the project along. They have been stalled for months. So Steve, I see you're here.
Hi, good evening. Good evening. Good to see you all. And thanks for accommodating. I know you've done a great job to do that, and I sincerely appreciate that. I think you teed that up pretty well, Cliff. So just to kind of expand upon that a little bit, if it's appropriate. But yeah, there were two driving forces, in the kind of, I call it a value engineering approach and assessment of the subdivision, was the errors found in the topography, which were going to result in, even more potential fill to be imported to the site than needed. And another significant driving force was an error on the original plans, which no one, you certainly wouldn't know, right? You get information on plans. It's stamped by professional surveyors and engineers. And so the sewer, the sewer manhole on Cross Street that this whole project was going to connect to, the invert elevation was wrong. The invert elevation that we actually was able to verify by personally, I was there. I personally measured rim to invert elevations, and the sewer could not get into the sewer manhole on Cross Street. Fortunately, we're able to secure an easement through a neighbor's property and connect to the next sewer manhole downstream. And because that Cross Street goes downhill, we're connecting to sewer at a lower elevation, which translates, combined with the topography errors, translates into being able to lower the site, reducing the extensive amounts of fill having to be imported, extensive amounts of fill to be, possibly excavated on site and utilized, and keeping a significant amount of trucks, probably 2,000 trucks off the road. That's a real measurable number. When it comes time, for costs, for butter impacts, infrastructure impacts. So as you could tell, probably from BSC's review and the support from Don and DPW and other departments, this is really a win-win-win. And as this affects the Conservation Commission, a lowering of some of the features of the site, the roads, and particularly the large stormwater basin of about 2 feet. Some areas it's like 1.7, and some areas it's about 2.1 in the roads. But the basin was a strict 2 feet because we wanted to maintain the proper required groundwater separation and make sure everything was going to function as it should. It allows the grading of these proposed features, the roadway, particularly the basin and the buffer zone, to get further away from the resource area, because instead of having the amount of fill that would require more horizontal extent of the grading for the grades to tie in, the fill to tie into existing ground, by lowering it, we require less fill. Thereby, the slope can the new TOA slope is further horizontally from resource areas, so it's an improvement. Now, erosion controls were installed and inspected based on the approved plan, and trees that needed to be removed have been removed, but the earthwork, that work is done, but the earthwork, which can oftentimes really push up against those activities, you've seen it as much as me, silt fence retaining walls, right, are off the table. We're way inside the established limit of work, so really a benefit to the resource areas and buffer zones associated with those resource areas. We're happy to answer questions, probably in a more formal, anytime you'd like, but at a more formal basis at the next meeting as part of the public hearing. Abutters have been notified. Legal ad is running. But to help you establish a framework, and the commissioners to establish a framework in preparation of the request, that's the crux. That's the crux of it. And no horizontal alignment changes. All the drainage patterns are maintained, literally with the exception of tying into South Main and tying into Cross Street, which those elevations are maintained. We're just increasing slopes slightly, not even close to maximum allowable under the subdivision regulations. We're talking about going from maybe 1% to 2.5% to allow us to lower these areas of large, deep fills. Is really a benefit to everybody, and procedurally, an amended order is the right approach. We're looking for a modification at the same time from the planning board, which we'll present tomorrow night to them. We'll be ready in person with the illustrations and plans, and all indications are is that, you know, they support this as well. So happy to dive in more if necessary, but I thought that would at least kind of lay out the, you know, the boundary and the framework of the request.
Sure, we appreciate that. Steve, do you have your plans?
I do, and what I'm trying to do, if you could bear with me, is log in through my computer instead of my phone, so I could share.
Yeah, I'll give you a heads up now. Yeah, there's just a couple of issues that I wanted to touch on before we actually hold. This is an informational presentation. It's at a public meeting, so it's entirely acceptable to do this. We're not making any decisions based on this. I just wanted to provide a little direction or get a little clarification that you might be able to supply. If not tonight, then at the next meeting, you know, to keep the process moving.
Wonderful. All right, so looks like I've been able to connect. Got it. I'm gonna disconnect from my phone.
Yeah, I know that sound. The aliens used it last night when they picked me up.
Unmuted. Okay, so let me know when it's appropriate to share my screen.
Should be all set.
Okay. No, come on. Log in here. Sorry.
Okay.
Every once in a while, my PDF program wants me to log in.
You know, it does that.
Make sure it's me.
Yeah, as long as you remember your password, you're all set.
Or if the program remembers my email address, which for some reason it's not.
You sent these plans out, right? Everybody has these. Mike is usually really good at doing this.
Well,
In the event that Steve can't get his plans up, Mike, can you access the Dropbox?
Yeah.
If you can't get them?
Should be able to.
This is the stuff I don't have a lot of patience for.
I hear you. It drives me nuts. That's why I'm constantly replacing my screen, because I put my foot through it.
Okay. Might have luck here. Okay, I'm in luck.
All right, Mike.
Here comes the share.
Oh, here we go.
There we go. Oh, Mike is doing it.
Oh yeah, okay, great. So Mike's doing it. That's good. I can't do it while Mike's
Tell
doing
me where you
it.
want me to scroll or whatever.
Okay, that's the small basin.
Yeah.
You're getting there.
This is
Okay, that's the large basin.
That's the large basin.
So if you can enlarge that,
How much? Any particular part of it?
well, we're gonna go to the northeast corner, but yeah, in that area. So if we can Just keep going, a little more, keep going. Oh, okay, good. That's good. All right. So now now move this page up. All right. I think that'll work. All right, Steve, now you can see that so you can answer, or you can be prepared to answer some questions.
Yeah,
So it looks like the elevations are the same to maintain this a similar storage capacity. Is that correct?
absolutely. Yeah, it was a one-to-one storage capacity. There was one comment in the BSC letter that, and this is actually interesting because we did look into this in detail when we got the letter from BSC Group. We show and I'm going to do this from memory. We show a 270 contour. I just lost my screen. Anyone else lose their screen?
No.
270 is right here.
You can hear me though, right?
It also runs along the top of the berm, Mike. I think if you go to the major outfall, the emergency right there, I think you'll find that 270
Right
is
there.
the height of the berm.
Yeah, right there.
And in all the way around, if you follow the dotted line to the north and then to the east, yep. I think that's all at 270 elevation.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So I think BSC's comment was the 270 contour and then the inward 268 contour. So the 268 contour inside the basin and then subsequent 266 and 265.
Yep.
Those are 2-foot contour intervals, and the spacing of those contours is 6 horizontal feet, representing a 3-to-1 slope. So the overlay that we did of the proposed contours to the original Oak Consulting Group basin contours looked like they had a slight drafting error in their contours. So it looked like maybe he had offset his 270 contour to the inside of the basin, which should have been a 6-foot horizontal offset representing a 3-to-1 slope, but he looked like maybe it went 5 because the 268 contour we were showing didn't exactly overlay the 268 or the 268 contour that was shown on the Oak plans. And the explanation is simply on all the other contours did. And to me, a logical explanation was it was a drafting error, and the intent to offset a contour 6 feet, a 2-foot contour interval 6 feet to represent 3-to-1 was really offset 5 feet, because when you measure, it's off by it's off a foot. But because it's globally reduced 10 feet, the shape of the basin, the relative elevations from floor to top of berm are all maintained. All of the inverts of the outlet structure orifices and the size and the inverts of the pipes are all globally lowered, indicating that it's going to function exactly as it was designed to function. Storage volumes are exactly 1-for-1. Just one important area to note about this basin is that this basin, after you strip the topsoil and the subsoil, which is what you would normally do, it was going to require fill to get to the bottom of the basin, right? We all know how good the soil was in this area. To have to bring fill on top of good soil that was used in the soil testing for analysis, it's a specialized fill. It's a fill that's going to have the infiltration capacity of the parent soils. That's no longer the case. That when this basin has been dug in, prior to this request and prepared, we're at those parent soils. So we're thrilled about that. We hope you are. No import of soil that everyone has to kind of, worry about, what are the specs on that imported soil? Because it was designed based on the parent soils here, which we have encountered and, is the bottom basin while maintaining that required groundwater separation.
That's really important because the commission doesn't like to see soil imported for basin bottoms.
Yeah, nor do I. This is a large basin. That's a lot. It's a lot of input.
Yes, it is. We determined that during the hearing process. It's the largest basin this commission has ever permitted.
That's a 1-acre basin right there.
I think it's even larger.
Could be. Yeah, I'm around.
Well, I
it,
mean,
so
if
yeah,
you
you're
look
right.
at if you look at the total area, including the
4-bay.
the 4-bay and the grading outside, it's substantially more than an acre. However, what I want to do is I want to question the test pit that's in the northeast corner. No, the northeast, the other side, Mike. Yeah, that test pit, right? See, there's a test pit there.
Yeah, 19 dash.
So Steve, what happened was, acting on behalf of the commission, if you could enlarge a little more. Drag us over there. That's the one right there. Yep.
It's like, yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I was concerned that we didn't have separation to groundwater. At the time, there was no equipment available. So the applicant's representative and myself and the administrator and the town planner all went out there. We used shovels and augers to determine what the depth of groundwater was there. And there was a little disagreement. I had it being just under 4 feet and he had it just being over 4 feet. And then I realized while we were in the field that they only needed 2 feet because it's not in a water resource district. That was mea culpa.
Okay.
However, you're going to be taking an additional 2 feet of fill off the basement bottom, correct?
Yeah, right. It's a global, globally
Right.
2 foot adjustment. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you to reevaluate that
Okay.
to make sure, because the other basins, and we did the same thing, we had the straight shovel and went down as far as we could, used the tape measure and then used the auger. We had no issue in any other location, and the test pits showed that. But in that one area, it was pretty close. And so
Yeah.
that's one reason why we're having this meeting is to find things that might, at the actual hearing, we would ask you to perform that. So if you can get that done for the hearing, it'll save you some time.
Sure. That's good intel. I did a quick look on my version of the plan, and that is test pit 19-04. In the bottom left-hand corner of this plan, Mike, it has the test results for 1904 as performed by Oak Consulting Group. It would just be that one sheet we were on. And they actually estimated seasonal high groundwater table, they say none. So maybe bottom left, maybe some insight into, there we go. So 1904.
Oh, maybe I got the wrong one. There was one that they showed at 4 feet. Maybe it's, when we were out there, of course, it was fully vegetated. It was kind of difficult. Mike, can you enlarge that a little?
What sheet is this?
So we can.
Looks like the shallowest water table was at 66 inches in 19-05, which is in the 4-bay.
Interesting. I'm going to have to look at the original plan, Steve.
Okay.
And see, because when we were out there, we found modeling at about 4 feet.
Okay.
So, it's 48 inches. And we were trying to decide, but of course we were using a shovel and an auger.
Yeah.
So we might not have been in exactly that area.
Well, the good news is I can identify that exact area, in the field on site with the survey equipment and technology, and we can dig a hole. I'm a licensed soil evaluator, so I can certainly do the work. If you would like to partake, happy to have you join. And definitely, we all definitely want to verify that.
Now, there's a big difference between 66 inches and 48 inches. 2, 3. So they only did 5 test pits. Now my memory's failing.
Yeah, related to this basin anyway.
Yeah, okay. This is the basin where we had the questions. Mike, could you drag us back over there, please? Into the forebay. Yeah, okay, there you go. And so, yeah, we don't, unfortunately, Steve, we don't have the original plan, so I can't help you out here. I don't see a test pit in that basin.
Right above the word forebay 1.
Got it.
There, there's.
Yeah, there it is.
And then the other test pit is really to the left edge in the berm of the forebay, but this one is in the bottom, 19-05.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, certainly feel free, Cliff, to just to connect with me directly or through Ann, and we'll schedule the work and the location can be confirmed.
If we could do, again, it's difficult. You're holding plans and there is no point of reference.
Yeah.
So we're going by the people who did the original survey, and as it turns out, that's plus or minus a couple of feet. So if you could do maybe that one and the one we referenced earlier, the northeastern one,
sure.
I'll make every effort to go out there and cast an eye on it with you to make sure we get it done before the hearing. That'll go a long way toward putting my mind at rest.
Yeah, happy to do that. I think we'd all be a little, happier if that happened. So that's no problem. And just for discussion's sake, so this basin has started to be prepped, right? It's been stripped. The trees have been cut. It's been stripped.
Okay.
Of topsoil and subsoil. It's been started to be shaped.
Okay.
So what we'll be able to do, fortunately, is we can stake out. We can, we'll know the current ground elevation as it sits today, and the day we're out there, which won't change between then and now and then, and we'll have the ability to stake out to certain elevations that are relative to the original plan, because they're all relative elevations on the same datum.
Understand.
So we'll have that ability, and with no confusion.
I'll bring a tape measure.
That's the easiest way too, because really what's going to happen is we'll know the ground elevation that we're digging at, and we'll know the depth of groundwater relative to that elevation, and it should correlate to the depths that we hope and anticipate.
Well, if it doesn't, we'll certainly answer my question.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, and the forebay has to come up, that's not a problem. The forebay has to come up a foot. It doesn't affect the function of anything. The invert of the pipe coming into that forebay can come up as well, and the pipes going from forebay to basin can be adjusted accordingly, while the basin stays 2 feet lower, because the forebay is relatively small compared to the size of the basin, obviously.
Yes, it is.
So again, nothing earth-shattering there.
Okay. Again, this is an informal informational presentation. Does anyone on the commission have a question or comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if I understood correctly. The plans are going to be updated with accurate elevations, correct?
I can answer that if you'd like.
Or the plan's still going to reference inaccurate elevations? I know it's all relative to the site, but.
So these plans, Mr. Chairman, through you, these plans represent accurate elevations in the and red overlay as requested by BSC Group, so that even DPW, so that they could have a comparison. So the plans in the black ink are from the existing contours from the approved plan, because we were provided that CAD file from the original engineer. The red contours shown on this plan are from our topographic survey, which is from LiDAR. LiDAR is a laser technology, and when it can see the ground, the accuracy is unbelievable. But we also field verified it on the ground with traditional survey, in areas where it seemed like there were some discrepancies between the two surveys that, always leave a little bit of doubt in people's minds, where you've got thick pine coverage. And that's really what happened here in the original topography, which was provided by the surveyor, which provided the information to Oak Consulting Group. As you know, from numerous site walks, including the one we attended together, that's a pine grove back there, right? There's some, old big pines, and that's where you have classic problems from traditional aerial topography. And this aerial topography on the cover sheet or in the notes section of the original Oak Consulting Group plan say that it was from like 1988. Now, topography shouldn't change, in undeveloped areas, but all the more reason to field verify with modern technology and ability and just effort. So,
And in 32 years, technology changes.
technology changes. Undeveloped ground doesn't change drastically, but technology changes. I mean, I used aerial topography for decades, and they always caveat the tolerances allowed, and provided with aerial topography, and get areas of dense, obscure topography and dense tree coverage, and we always field verified those. So the combination of LiDAR technology and field verification gives us all the confidence in the world of these areas of discrepancy, which is why I'll note the outlet and the spillway, in on this basin moves slightly to the bottom as opposed to the north. I'll call it plan northwest. It goes southerly, because the ability the real topography would not have allowed those pipes to daylight at the elevations on the Oak Consulting plan. Based on the real topography, they would have daylighted underground in that elevated area. So we slid them southerly so they could in fact daylight.
So the short answer, Neil, field shot grades.
Yeah. So if at the commission's, what I would anticipate doing is providing the commission with a plan that didn't show the original contours. So you in fact had a final plan of current topography. This was done as a matter of comparison at the request, I believe, of DPW and maybe even BSC. And it made sense. It made sense to have a comparison on one sheet, so that I anticipate, getting rid of the comparison. It's for discussion and educational purposes. But Neil, great question. We're happy to provide you with final non-comparison current topography.
Perfect.
Thank you. Just be nice to have an accurate plan on record.
Unlike the last one.
Yeah, and we, remember we have had issues where pipes didn't daylight, as you recall.
I recall, I won't get into specifics, but yes, it was all based on an aerial survey.
Correct.
It was inaccurate, so.
Correct. So it's not from lack of experience that we question this.
Yeah, good. And I'll tell you what's important as a little side note is when aerial topography is used to design roads that come off of existing roads, and there's a 1 foot tolerance within the aerial topo, and you get out to build it, to build the new road off of the existing road, and it's off a foot. And those are areas that are always important to field verify.
Speed bump.
Utility connections, roadway connections, minor oversights, but important stuff.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Quick question. The trees that were referred to as all being cut and cleared, and then the mistakes were realized in the elevation, topography, and so forth, would they have needed to have been cut anyway?
They were at the limit of the sediment
some
erosion.
obviously, yes, but as many of them?
They were at the limit of the sediment erosion control.
Correct. So, I mean, the short answer is no, but the practical answer is, maybe leaning more towards probably, because, the way that root zones extend and the health of trees and that, that sort of reality. Is it possible and likely that, you know, a handful of trees could have been saved? And yeah, I can't deny that it would have been possible, but the good news is that that toe of slope of the modified basin won't extend as far and give the opportunity for regrowth that's not part of the basin berm.
What about
So
throughout the
healthy
site
regrowth.
overall, not just at that basin, but throughout the site overall? If you're talking about 2,000 truckloads plus or minus not going onto the site to elevate the overall site, was that fill going under houses along the roads to raise the whole site that much? Or
In this analysis, we really just looked at the roads, Mike, because the lots would only really add to the need for some fill depending on house design. You know, if the ability to maximize the landscape and the topography to provide more walkouts would certainly reduce the need for fill. But in some scenarios on the original plan, in order to make walkouts even work, was going to require some fill. So the house wasn't, you know, drastically below the road, but lowering the road, you know, by reducing fill needed for the road, reduces fill needed for the lot. So, but our estimations on those volumes and equivalent truckloads doesn't even include the lots. So they would be even more reductions from the lot development. And to answer your question about the tree cutting on the lot development, these are pretty small lots, which is again provides a benefit for the open space afforded. So I don't think we would have cut down on tree removal just to afford, you know, reasonable backyards. Anywhere we can stay out of the buffer zone and still provide a reasonable backyard, and I mean like about 30 feet, because that's 30 feet is not excessive, but comfortable. We did that, and from the tree cutting. So I would say more often than, more likely not the case when it comes to the lots for tree cutting.
yeah.
All right, are there any questions from anyone else? All right, I want to thank Mr. O'Connell for attending. And if you'll let the administrator know what you're thinking in terms of getting out there, I'll make every effort to be present, and then we will hold the actual hearing for the amendment a week from tonight at a special meeting.
That's wonderful. And again, I thank you for accommodating. That's appreciated.
We understand.
Looks like Paul has a question, if I may say so.
It's just some generic questions. The special meeting, is it going to be a Zoom meeting?
The second meeting, Paul?
Yeah.
Yes, so the meeting next week on May 18th will be a Zoom meeting, yes.
Okay.
And the agenda will be posted this Friday, so you'll get the link there, okay?
And you had also mentioned, which I don't even know if they sent out notices on it, a planning board meeting.
Yes.
Right, the planning board meeting is tomorrow night.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
in person, right?
That's correct. It's in person. And if I may, through you, Mr. Chairman, notices were not sent out because through consultation with the planning department, that they view this as a, unofficially, they view this as an insubstantial change, modification. If they were to change their opinion on that and determine that this was a significant modification under the subdivision control law, it would require a butter notification. But until that time, they do not notify abutters, as it's a reduction, proposed reduction essentially in the work. So it's ultimately the planning board's determination. We, in my experience and from what initial feedback we're getting, it seems like it'll be a minor modification, but abutters are notified with this amendment to the order of conditions.
And because
I wasn't questioning that.
No worries. No.
Okay.
In
this meeting, there was no advertisement for this meeting because it's an informational presentation.
Oh, actually there was.
Agenda.
That's the agenda.
Yeah, that was for the actual hearing next week.
Oh, was it really?
That's okay.
It's okay.
That's all right.
Okay,
At least you knew about it, right? That's the important thing.
I apologize.
No, it's
No
not a
problem.
problem at
No
all.
problem.
Okay.
Thank you,
So that being the case, I want to thank you for attending, and we'll look forward to seeing you before the next meeting and at the next meeting.
Same here. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Okay.
Steve.
Okay. So we have additional business to talk about. We have 2 sets of minutes.
If I may interrupt, I think I will say goodnight and go get some dinner if that makes sense.
Makes plenty of sense to me.
And thank you, thank you so
After you-
much. It's good to
After you
see
tell
you.
us what the picture is behind you.
It's the Dust Bowl.
The Dust Bowl.
But
This
yeah,
day in
but come on,
history.
where is it? What's the history? Come on, you can't be lost.
All right. So I'm trying to fill Frank's shoes. I will be better next time, but at least I had a historical event behind me, right?
All right.
Maybe the commission's not aware that Frank is no longer with BSC.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. He
Okay.
yeah, last week was his last week. He took a position with VHB, if I understand correctly. Yeah, so that's a big loss for us, and I think for Bellingham and everyone that he worked with us.
He's done yeoman's work for us.
Yes.
He's a good person to work with. And he was a contemporary of mine. Although
Yes.
he was younger than me.
Well, I
Well-
wish him the best of luck at his new position.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know he said that he's, he'll be around still and available for anything that he was working on that comes up. So yeah, he's very generous in that regard. So
Say so.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great.
Well, have a nice evening.
Enjoy
Okay.
your dinner.
thanks. We'll see you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night.
So yes, two meeting minutes. Want to start with March 23rd? Mike?
Well, I had sent in some information, depending on how it was incorporated, I may not have anything to say if it's all been, was that all clear, Ann?
We made every effort
To
try
make
to-
appropriate revisions, and I think we got them out, and I think they were distributed, weren't they?
Mhm.
Yeah, I haven't done a like side-by-side comparison. If as you incorporated them, you had some stick out, because I think there were 1 or 2 things where I might have just sort of wanted to make sure I understood the meaning of it. A couple were just typos, simple stuff, but I'm just looking through the 23rd real quickly and seeing if there was anything that jumped out that I had a question about. What did we mean there, or what were we talking about?
Well, what I did is I eliminated some statements because they seemed a little superfluous. And they weren't necessary. And sometimes when items are repeated, it can add to confusion. So yeah, we did that. There were some misspellings, minor things. I know your favorite is toe of slope,
Yeah,
TOW. I know.
darn spell check. Yeah. I guess the one thing that I might have been an understanding one is on the page 4. We're talking about the hearings on the Lake Street, Prospect Street subdivision, 19-lot subdivision. So page 4, the section paragraph starts with Paul McManus from Ecotech, who delineated the resource area.
Yeah.
It says about halfway down, there is a competent road and competent culvert at that location. The proposal is to widen that, as the existing fill is not wide enough to accommodate a subdivision road. There's additional filled bordering vegetated wetland on either side, I assume proposed. I guess I was just struck by, I didn't know what competent road and competent culvert were per se. Maybe we referred to them in that way.
I think that was the language that Paul used, meaning competent to handle the load of the equipment going across.
Oh, adequate or whatever, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, all right, that's fine. I think I just hadn't heard that before, and I wondered if the applicant had brought that up in that way. I think when Amy recorded, it was probably just doing it from what he said. And otherwise, no, I think shoot, yeah, no, I guess everything else you probably had caught and addressed. So based on the corrected one, so I don't have anything else myself unless some other Concom members do.
So that was good. How about the 13th?
Let me pull that up 1 second. Just look at the comparison one. 13. 323. 323. Oh, I don't have my 13th ones here. I don't know what happened to them. I will defer to anybody else having questions because I didn't find the 13th ones that I had saved any corrections on. So before I send them in, or I can't find them quickly, so I don't want to hold that up. I think that based on what you did with the first one, I'm confident that having not quite finished reading them all through the revised one on the 13th, I think you caught everything. I'm not worried about that.
Okay, fair enough. I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of March 23rd and April 13th.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, by unanimous vote. We have some new business. We have received or are anticipating 3 new filings that the administrator will schedule for our June 8th meeting. We have a septic repair on Taunton. We have an addition on Pothier Street. Now there's a good one. Anybody know where that is? I would think that our vice chairperson might be aware of that.
I do.
It's in his neck of the woods, his old neck of the woods.
Absolutely.
Okay. So in addition, an installation of a water line there, and we're waiting for an ANRAD from Norman Doe Associates.
That we don't know anything about.
We don't know anything about, but we did some research on Norman Doe. They're from New Hampshire. Their PWS did the wetland delineation. The administrator instructed them that the flags had to be the field surveyed, and they do a lot of energy projects. So we are suspecting that this, but we don't know. We've heard rumors that the golf course, Maplegate, is going to be a big solar farm, but we don't know. So we'll have to wait and see what it is, but that's all going to be coming. And in addition to that, we issued an enforcement order at 303 Farm Street. What happened was there are 2 buildings on the same lot, and landscapers from one of the buildings were expanding their yard area, and a disgruntled employee called the administrator and said they're filling wetlands, and we went out and investigated, and it looked like they were filling some wetlands. So we issued an immediate enforcement order. The owner was unaware of the activity, and corrective actions already being taken. We're waiting for some plans and a narrative relative to the corrections that will be made, and we're going to allow the work to proceed without the filing of a notice of intent, because that just takes a lot of extra time. They're working on it, and we'll pass that information on. Perhaps at our next site inspection, we can add this one to the list. But so far, so good with the cooperation, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And what else? What else you got?
I got a question about Maple Street. I've gone up and down there. I know some other members probably have too. The mulch mountains there, I've glanced over to the left. I have not gotten out of my car and tried to walk around the perimeter, staying off of their property and walking on town or other property. But it appears pretty clear to me from what I'm seeing that there is equipment and or mulch and or large barrier logs on the back as you're facing the left corner that are really close, if not touching the back fence. I didn't get out of my vehicle. Also, my understanding was that even while they're protesting this and still filing legal or whatever they're doing, and hasn't been officially approved or grandfathered in as a approved site, they had agreed to keep a unblocked, unobstructed perimeter road for fire safety, correct?
No,
No,
That hasn't been approved.
no.
no,
Okay, because they're not.
That was part of our permit.
yeah.
I
That was
thought I
part of-
noticed, I thought I thought I noticed the other day on the way to the site walk that the logs that they had in place to keep out of the 100-foot on the left-hand side of the site
Yep,
are gone.
no. We've inspected this on numerous occasions. The logs are still there. The piles are big. There's no doubt about it. The roadway that Mike is referring to,
No, I know, yeah, no, I thought that the logs on the left-hand side of the site had been removed.
Well, now I haven't been up there in the past week and a half. But I would.
but we did see a piece of equipment on the wrong side of the logs. And the administrator contacted the owners and told them in no uncertain terms, you gotta stay away on the other side of the logs. And well, when we drove by the next day, it had been moved, so.
What about the bales? What I was thinking about when I was talking about that roadway and the fire access roadway, if it's not required still for them, is still that they had bale after bale right along the fence to the right of their entrance, right up against the fence of the dye. And vehicles are probably going between that and the piles, because the piles are a little further into the site and maneuvering around and so forth. And that's an area that even if their fire trucks don't need to go around it, because of snow or whatever, they just drive into the middle of the site if there was a fire, which there was a while back. I did see.
There was a fire.
Yeah.
We were notified.
Yeah.
Administrator and I were on site within 18 hours. Did the inspection. So what?
Yeah, no, but the bales of dye are right next to the road, which if they get off the site by being punctured or whatever, they're going right into the drainage ditch along the road there and flowing down eventually into wetlands, which has happened before. The red dye that was flowing off the site just from the surface runoff, I think. Not so.
Well, I don't know what to
Contact
tell
the
you,
planning
Mike.
board.
You're gonna have to contact the
I
planning.
basically was asking what's the status of that site? Is it still legally?
Okay, here's what's happened. Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
Somebody go ahead. Come on, please.
No.
Okay, so
you probably are more articulate with that.
The town and the owner have been locked in a court battle for 2 years now.
mhm.
And when it looks like there's going to be a settlement, someone will say something and there is no settlement. If you'll recall, the planning board required them to get a permit from conservation, and they got a permit from conservation. And what we said in our permit is you must stay outside the 100-foot buffer zone until you build your stormwater management system. And for the most part, they've done that. All other activities taking place on the site, irrespective of whether or not we think they're legal, the town doesn't think they're legal, but it's in court. It hasn't been decided yet. And so the storage of the dyes, the heights of the pile, the truck traffic, it's in court. We did our job. Nothing more we can do.
I understand what we did. I just wanted, okay. The second question was the new Bellingham Garden Center. You're aware where that is? That appears, I remember when we walked around the backside of Antron years ago, walking the site for Red Mill, and there were some wetlands back in there. We were concerned about Antron pushing stuff back from their log cutting and other things that they do in the backside of the park. Is that, I can't tell without going all the way onto that property, and I really don't want to be accused of trespassing or something. Is that equal to the back of Antron's property line into the wetlands area, or is it
No.
still further up?
No, it's not. It's further up and it doesn't extend as far back.
Okay. All right.
That was a single family house.
That was at one point, yeah,
Yep.
sure. But I just know that they've got that yard landscaping material way, way, way back on that. And it looks like it's well beyond the back edge almost of where Antron dumps stuff and probably still is making messes and stuff back on the edge of their property. And there was a not pond, but a pool of water and some steep hills around. I know we climbed around those and looked.
Yeah, there's a stormwater management structure back there.
Yeah.
There's a big basin. Yep.
I just was a little concerned whether this Bellingham Center knew that they should be staying out of that, or whether they were still well outside of it. It's not an issue.
They're
Yeah.
well outside it.
In fact, there's no jurisdiction there. There's one we didn't have to worry about.
Right. I assumed you would have brought it up if it was. Okay. All right, thanks. Just curious.
Okay. And so
Okay, so
I think that's all we have, but before we adjourn, again, you know, we have double sadness with our friend Brian. I words can't express the feelings that Ann and I have for your loss. It's shattering. You know, we've been through this, and it's no consolation. And that, coupled with the fact that we're going to be losing a valued member, a consistent member, a person who could always be counted on, and a friend, is it's heartbreaking. So maybe at some point you can just attend the meetings, just to say hello.
Yeah, thank you.
And I hope you'll still be able to participate in the trips of your dreams, and I hope you have a marvelous time.
yes, that's on the brighter side. You're gonna have a great time.
I'm going,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
When do you fly out, Brian? When do you fly out?
Tuesday morning.
All right, we'll be thinking of you, man. Have a
Yeah,
good time.
thanks. It'll be
My
in
condolences,
Fair-
definitely.
Fairbanks, Alaska. It's supposed to be 60 degrees at night and 40 degrees in the evening. So
Wow. Wow.
it's supposed to be sunny. So
Yeah.
It's gonna
I'm
be
going to
great.
Denali the next day. So
Bring
hoping to be
a
able
warm
to
coat just in
see
case.
Denali without the cloud cover, you know.
I hope when you come back, you can share some photos.
It'll be
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm not going to be able to take the drone though.
No.
Yeah,
Because of the cruise line, they will not let you take a
Oh.
drone on. So I would have had to ship it back after the land to us. So
Yeah, it's a lot of.
probably not a great option. It probably cost a pretty penny for one. And, you know, you have lithium batteries. So
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's it.
No.
yeah, they'll charge you more for that too, you know.
I can see you flying the drone behind the cruise ship, trying to get some nice shots, and it starts to lose battery power. And then it's like, do you dive in after it, or you just try to get to catch up?
Well, that's probably why the cruise ships don't want people taking them. Because they're going to break the rule and fly it off the cruise ship. you
Yeah.
know.
Gets caught in
But
smokestack.
that wasn't-
or-
I don't even know how they can really, if they think it may be a hazard to the other, people on the cruise ship. I don't know how, possibly from the lithium batteries could catch on fire, but,
Yeah.
the only way it's a hazard if the person goes and flies it, you know.
Well, they have these things called cell phones that take pretty good pictures nowadays, Brian. You ought to get one of those. Primitive, I know. It's not the,
Yeah, it's not the same.
yeah, I hear you. Well, have a great time, man. We'll have to get together sometime and go out for a beer or something.
Sure.
So considering it's Brian's last meeting, we'll let him make the final motion of the evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening, all. Thank you so
Aye,
much,
bye.
Brian.
Thank you.
Have a good
Brian.
night. We'll
Take
miss
care
you,
of yourself.
Brian.
Night.
All right,
Everybody, thanks. Thanks, Amy.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night.
all right.